Well, one thing to remember, businesses are on the front lines of these protests. This video just released of protesters looting a local market. Now, McDonald's also forced to close temporarily as it was overrun with residents looking for cover, and Walmart setting up these blockades to keep looters out. Crisis manager Mark Serrano says businesses are being forced to take matters into their own hands. He is one of our Fox Biz All-Stars, along with Hadley Heath and Jared Levy. Now, Mark, first to you. Some people would say that this is unacceptable in our society. Vigilante justice, there's no place for it. What do you say?
Well, if you have a retail storefront with plate glass windows in Ferguson, Missouri, you better batten down the hatches. You've got to protect yourself. So what we're seeing is companies big and small are having to hire security around the clock. They're having to board up their windows because it costs $300 to board up a window, but $1,000 to replace a plate glass window, not to mention your inventory inside. These businesses
what about,
are companies.
let me push it further, though. What about carrying your own weapons? I don't know what the particular gun control laws are in Ferguson, Missouri, but assuming that they would allow you to have a firearm inside your premises, would you suggest that it's okay for them to use those weapons to keep looters out?
I'd say it's absolutely necessary. Look at these photos and this video of the looting going on. This is not a protest site. This is a crime scene, and the crimes are still going on every single night. So store owners are going to have to take matters into their own hands. Hopefully, we won't see a repeat of violence, but they are forced to at this point. Hopefully, they can turn to security, but there's also a cost to these businesses that's extraordinary.
All right, well, Hadley, what do you think about this? I mean, on the one hand, you don't want vigilante justice. You don't want people shooting dead looters, as bad as their actions are. There may be something short of that. But on the other hand, you don't want to be a business owner and just let you stand aside and let your property get looted and burned to the ground.
No, you know, what started all of this was a tragedy. It's tragic whenever a life is lost. That's destructive, and more destruction. I just simply don't see how more destruction, illegal looting, or destruction of personal private property is going to move that conversation forward, because we do have an opportunity here, I think, as a nation to have a dialogue about some important issues, but I don't see how criminal activity is going to really move that conversation
But Hadley, what
forward.
about the idea of allowing shop owners to arm themselves and, if necessary, shoot the looters that are threatening their property and perhaps their life?
You know, I certainly wouldn't advocate for more violence, but I've always thought that the Second Amendment applies to everyone, regardless of whether you're a business owner or not. You should be able to protect your own property, protect your own life. Absolutely, the Second Amendment applies here just as it should in any other case.
Jared, there's another aspect to this looting problem that affects public policy here. And I'm going to quote now the words of a looter, fresh from looting. I believe it's Associated Press that reported this. This is what he had to say. It's Washington Post. I'm proud of us. This is the looter speaking now. We deserve this. Keep that phrase in mind. We deserve this. And this is what's supposed to happen when there's injustice in your community. St. Louis not going to take this anymore. That whole idea of we deserve this. We're entitled to it. Food stamps, housing, health care. It's all free. No one built it, therefore everyone can have a piece of it. I mean, it does follow a pattern, an ideological pattern, does it not?
Yeah, I'd call it a misaligned moral compass is what I would call it. And you know, it's a real Sophie's choice, David, because on one hand, you know, coming from Philadelphia, I remember when Frank Rizzo rolled the tanks through the city and just impress upon the people that he had control. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I
remember the '68 riots, same there.
Yeah, and you know, maybe on some level you need that, because listen, this isn't about Michael Brown. This isn't about sensitivity to race. This is about criminals. This is about people going out, creating, you know, more problems and ruining that community and the minorities that live in the community. So in my opinion, you know, I think the best thing is, hey, you've got to clear them out. You've got to bring in the National Guard like we're doing, and you've got to educate these folks that, you know what, you're not entitled. You don't rob from your neighbor to make things better.
They don't deserve that. Go ahead,
here.
Mark.
David, look, the idea is some shop owners may arm themselves to prevent more violence, okay? If they arm themselves, they probably are likely to be less targeted as a business.
Right.
If they see the quick mark down the store get burned to the ground, they're going to have to take measures into their own hands.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know,
if the sign is out there, guns not allowed, and they're including the owners there, looters might be more inclined to go into those places.
Right, and these are not protesters, okay? These are criminals coming from New York, coming from California.
I think even the president has admitted that much. All right, back to Iraq and how a lot of